Alright, so you want to get into data. I don't blame you. Data science and analytics has been the fastest growing career path over the past decade. In this video, I'm going to share the exact roadmap that I used to become a data analyst in less than 3 months. To those of you who don't know me, hello, welcome. My name is Ranesh and I work at a tech startup. It was around this time last year when I got my initial offer to work there without having any background or much experience. Now, before we go into the how, let's first try to understand what data analytics is. Data analytics is the process of using data to answer business problems or solve business questions. Essentially, data analysts are problem solvers who use data to drive business goals. You know, maybe you've analyzed your personal finances to figure out how much you spend on groceries historically, or maybe you looked into some car or home prices within your location before putting an offer in. Data analytics in a professional sense is essentially that, but at scale. Instead of just looking at a couple rows, you might be handed a massive data set with millions of rows to provide actionable insights. Great, now that we understand what data analytics is at a high level, let's talk about how you can get there. These are the exact steps that I took with some modifications on what I would do in the present day. Now, this roadmap will include a lot of free resources at each step, so make sure to check them out. I'm a big proponent of using the resources available to you, and these days there are a ton of them out there. For those of you who prefer a more structured learning route, I'll leave a couple certifications and courses that I recommend that are more structured and rigid with deadlines to keep you in check. Also, if you need more personal support or assistance, feel free to join our Discord community, link down below. Now, if your goal is to ultimately land a job at the end of this process, make sure you stick to the end of this video. I share some very crucial tips that have helped me and many others successfully land full-time offers. Also, speaking of data, I noticed that over 50% of you guys aren't subscribed. If you're interested in content like this, we post weekly videos, so definitely consider subscribing so you don't miss out. Alright, so there's two main learning paths to become a data analyst, the technical and the behavioral. The technical side can vary depending on the job, but the behavioral side is generally the same through and through. You will need to have these 3 behavioral skills to succeed as a data analyst, and if you follow this roadmap, you will get the hang of them. The 3 soft skills are essentially comprehension, curiosity, and communication. Generally, as a data analyst, your main task is to solve business problems or answer business questions, and without comprehension, you're not going to be able to understand or comprehend the business task well, which means you can't produce relevant results. You might misunderstand the stakeholders asked, or maybe you don't have the domain knowledge to answer that question, even with all the data in the world. This is exactly why comprehension is crucial. If you're truly curious about the business problem, you're going to put in the effort to ask the right questions and get the necessary answers. Lastly, and probably most importantly, communication. Obviously, you're going to need to be a good communicator to convey your findings to stakeholders. The key part here is understanding your audience, knowing if they're technical or not, and what they need to make a data-informed decision. If you're unable to share your insights in a way your stakeholders can understand, all your hard work would have been for nothing. Without these behavioral skills, regardless of how much you excel technically, you're probably going to struggle a lot producing results. Don't worry though, like I said earlier, if you follow this roadmap through and through, you're going to get the hang of these soft skills. Before we even get into the technical tools and languages, I would brush up on some math and statistics just so you can utilize these concepts to draw valuable insights from your data. You don't really need anything crazy. I would focus on descriptive and inferential statistics. This will allow you to understand the structure of your data and how to analyze it moving forward. I personally learned most of my statistics from YouTubers like Khan Academy or the Organic Chemistry Tutor. I think they have a very broad coverage of the basics of statistics, which can get the job done. If you're more of a bookworm, I recommend the book Naked Statistics by Charles Whelan or Practical Statistics for Data Science. Again, links for all the resources mentioned will be down in the description below. As I mentioned before, all of you have probably performed some sort of data analytics at some point in your life. However, a professional data analyst usually deals with big data that might not be as easily accessible. That's why we use tools and programming languages to help make the process more efficient. Currently, there are dozens of tools and languages out there for you to choose from, but you only need to know 4. A database query language, BI tool, programming language, and a spreadsheets tool. These different tools and languages are used at different stages of the data analyst workflow. Again, there are many workflows that you can use, but they all generally involve these 4 stages: data collection, cleaning, processing, and analysis. We're going to be using this workflow a lot throughout the video, so hang on tight. Generally, when you're extracting data from a database, you're going to need to use a query language like SQL. SQL, or SQL as noted before, is the most prominent tool used in a data analyst toolbox, which is why it's so important to learn. It's also probably the easiest way to get into programming languages because its syntax is very much like English. I personally use resources like datalemur.com and videos from Alex the Analyst to learn SQL. All you need to get started with SQL is the ability to gather specific data from tables, join or merge different tables, aggregate and group data, and filter data based on specific requirements. With these foundations in your bag, you're able to carry out more than 75% of typical day-to-day analyst work. After extracting the data, you will need to clean, process, and analyze the data to get meaningful insights. A lot of people tend to get thrown off by the term data cleaning, but essentially it just means making the data more usable or meaningful by imputing or removing null values or reformatting columns or changing data types, etc. Processing your data is very similar to data cleaning. You might have to transform your data from long to wide format, maybe scale your data to get a better analysis, or maybe even aggregate your data to have a better understanding of what it tells you. The reason we use programming languages like Python or R to carry out these steps is because they can handle a very large amount of data data and can carry out these functions in a short period of time. Imagine having to sift through thousands of rows of data manually and having to convert typos or missing information or missing data into a more meaningful format. I know it seems pretty tiring, right? But with a programming language like Python or R, you can do this in seconds. Now, there tends to be a debate between Python and R. I've learned both and found use cases for them separately. I tend to use Python more heavily for my job, but I used R pretty frequently when I was in school for research work. If you're just getting started, I highly recommend learning Python first because it's probably going to be easier to learn and more diverse. You can use it for more than just data analysis. I personally use it for machine learning, web scraping, automation, and many other things. I learned Python through this book called Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. However, if you're looking to learn Python just for data science and analytics, I highly recommend checking out videos from Ken G and Luke Barros. You should be able to pick up the basics in just a few hours and start your first project from there. As mentioned before, the next step in the workflow is the data analysis stage, and you can definitely do this in programming languages like Python and R. However, for most cases, as a data analyst, you will require some sort of visualizations to present your findings. This is where BI tools like Tableau, Looker, or Power BI comes in. BI tools like this allow you to create custom static and dynamic visualizations that you can put on a dashboard to present your findings to a stakeholder. It really doesn't matter which one you pick. I personally started off at Tableau because it was a part of the Google Data Analytics certification that I took when I was getting started, but the skills are generally very transferable. If your end goal is to work for a company like Google, then I highly recommend starting off with Looker, but if you want to work for Microsoft, then maybe it's more worth it to learn Microsoft Power BI first. Remember, the important thing to learn here is getting to know what story each chart, graph, or visualization tells you and when to use them. It's not really meaningful to use a pie chart for time series data, or maybe using a line graph for static, non-sequential data. Play around and get your hands dirty with the various different types of data visualizations, and ultimately build a portfolio of use cases for these different plots. Alex the Analyst is not only a great resource when it comes to learning BI tools, but also understanding when and how to use specific charts and plots. If by the end of this you still have no preference on what BI tool to learn first, I highly recommend starting off at Tableau because Tableau Public allows you to share and showcase your work to many other people online very easily. Lastly, and probably the most common tool used in a data analyst toolbox, is the Spreadsheet tool. Your options here are mainly going to be Google Sheets or Excel, and depending on your dream company, decide which tool is best for you. I personally prefer Excel, but most companies, mine included, tend to use Google Sheets. Luke Barros is a great resource when it comes to learning spreadsheet tools, and honestly, you don't need to go too in-depth. Pivot tables, charts, XLOOKUPs, VLOOKUPs, and if-else statements are basically all you need to know aside from some basic formatting. The goal here is to fully understand tabular data because most of the time, if you're going to be handing out a report, it's going to be in a CSV or Excel format. Alright, I know we've covered a lot so far, but we're not done just yet. Just learning about these tools, languages, and skills aren't going to be enough. You need to put them into practice. The best way to learn is through application, so I would 100% recommend finding a question or problem that you're interested in solving and using data to get answers. For example, when I was first learning about engagement rings and different types of diamonds, I decided to use data to help me understand the industry better. I found a couple data sets from Kaggle, created a problem statement, and used Python and Tableau to solve it. For this project, the business task was pretty simple and the stakeholder was myself, so the presentable at the end was a dashboard to help me decide which ring was most worth it depending on factors like price, carat, weight, clarity, etc. If I were you and just getting started, I would definitely look into topics or domains that I'm interested in and use platforms like Kaggle or GitHub to get data to help me answer those questions. These days, I recommend the car prices dataset on Kaggle for those of you who are just getting started. The business task here is to determine the relationship between multiple features and the car price. You don't have to go too in-depth here and involve machine learning. It's just your first project. I highly recommend just following the basic data analyst workflow, clean, process, and analyze your data using some correlation matrices, some visualizations, some charts, aggregated data, stuff like that, so you can provide foundational level insights to your stakeholders through dashboards or reports. Once you've completed this, you should have enough confidence and independence to go out and find 5 to 10 other projects that can utilize and showcase these skills. I made a complete other video talking about beginner projects and data sets that I would work on if I was just getting started that showcase all the technical skills and soft skills talked in this video. I'll leave a link down below if you guys are interested. I really like using Kaggle for my projects because I can easily find data sets and compare my work to others, and I can also share my projects on my personal portfolio. Speaking of portfolios, I highly recommend making a personal portfolio that can showcase and highlight all the relevant skills and tools that you've learned in your data analyst journey. I made a video talking about how I made my personal portfolio for completely free in under 10 minutes. I'll leave a link down below if you guys are interested. Feel free to check it out. When doing these projects, try to put yourself in a stakeholder's shoes so you can understand what questions they would ask and what answers they would need. Also, always remember to practice sharing your findings. You can do this with family members or friends, or you can even post it on social media to improve your communication skills. Data analytics is a lot like storytelling, and just like storytelling, it's going to take a lot of time and practice to get it perfect. It's also an iterative process, so make sure to consistently progress with your work and always learn from your past mistakes. If you're not interested in continuous learning, this field is probably not for you. Like I said, I'll leave all the resources and links down below, even the ones that are not mentioned in this video, so make sure to check out the description down below. If you need a more structured learning path, I highly recommend looking into courses like the Google Data Analytics or IBM's Data Analytics certifications. I took these 2 courses and leveraged the tools and skills skills learned to help me land several job offers. You can also take this a step further and try out the Google Business Intelligence course or the Google Advanced Data Analytics course on Coursera if you think that's better for you. Data science and data analytics is a pretty broad field, so the skills and tools that I talk about in this video might change over time. However, the knowledge you learn will be transferable. I also highly recommend documenting and sharing your work to your network. This is honestly one of the best ways to land a job right now. Speaking of landing a job, I made a couple other videos talking about how I'd go about landing a job in this day and age, and I think a lot of people have found success in those videos, so I'll leave a couple links down below if you guys are interested to check it out. Like I said, if you need more personal support, feel free to join the Discord community down below. It's completely free. If you found any value in this video, I would greatly appreciate if you left a like down below. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.